What is up, everybody? My name is Trips, and welcome back once again to Watchpoint, the show where we talk about everything Overwatch related. This week, we kind of have a dry week. We've been, playing a lot of the beta, but not too much, not another patch out yet. But we do have a nice forum post from that Jeff Kaplan responded to. But first, let me introduce our hosts once again, Yiska,
Hi.
and our lovely editor, Volcha.
Hello.
So into this forum post, which apparently I closed, and let me reopen really fast. Uh, a user by the name of Wormy posted about how some maps, I think in specifically he was saying Temple of Anubis, are very hard to attack on, and he feels like that either attackers need a damage boost, a health boost, either the maps need to be changed so that there's a few more like back routes besides the main choke of Temple of Anubis, where you're getting through that archway. And that he says that it's a strong favor for the defense. He said he only wins 25% of the time, so he's losing 75% of his games on attack. Um, so before we get into Jeff's response, do you think that there is, with aside from some of the data that we're going to look at, do you think there is a little bit of a problem on attack?
Um, well, I think this is sort of like a perception problem more than anything. You know, it probably is kind of tough to attack as a pug type setup. Maybe if they could make some changes to that, it would be good. I feel like it's kind of tough to attack. But then again, I might be in like little scrub lord section that Kaplan is talking about is having trouble doing attacks onto that last point. Feels a little
Yeah,
tough for me. I don't play with like I don't have a dedicated team of players to play with usually. I'm usually just alone, and it's you gotta kind of coordinate to break that. That
yeah,
one and Volskaya feel kind of tough.
yeah. A lot of the time, people are. Although Volskaya does have a back route for flyers,
Yep.
um, a
Yeah,
lot of
that breaks
people,
it.
a lot of people don't know about it. Not know about it, but a lot of people don't utilize it. I feel like, especially in pubs. Um, but that is different because in Temple of Anubis, there is, as long as you have two people sitting in those little nooks and they're well and like they're tanky enough to take out anybody who slips through. But if you get a Reaper and you like line it up, you can just teleport way past that initial choke point. Genji obviously can dash, Tracer can blink through it. You could even just throw up a Winston bubble and your whole team could run through.
Yep.
So there is a little bit of, especially just talking about that exact choke, there is the ability to break through that, I think.
Again, like how heavily do we want to like balance this game to a pickup game setting? Like, really, is that even something we should be striving for? Maybe we should be instead of doing that, we should be striving for getting people into a team setting rather than just having Pug a like the player base. Maybe we should be developing tools to actually build teamwork, team play, and building teams with social tools.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a couple of things that you need to consider, which basically when he cites these win rates, the question is what is actually different between high levels of play and low levels of play? Because naturally, logically, levels of play also has defenders of high levels of play. So there has to be some certain mechanics that favor attack on high level in high level games. So, what's the difference? What do you guys think is the main difference between low level pickups and high level games? And for me, there's the first thing is probably high level games also have a lot of premates, so
Hmm.
a lot of communication is actually taking place, right? And people are much more willing to pick characters that they don't necessarily want to play for fun, but make the team comp work.
Yeah.
And the other thing I think is very important in that sense is because we don't have waved spawns, people keep running in one at a time and just die. And um, not making the offense very effective. And
Yeah.
it's a very pubbish and also an indicator of a bad player that says when he dies, where is everyone?
I'm attacking this point alone. Where are you guys? Yeah.
It's like, okay, th- there are situations where that question might be appropriate, but before that can happen is when you already are part of the wave that's attacking. And if then people don't follow through or something or are scared, okay, then the question is legitimate. But in the vast majority of cases, it's probably because you went in on your own and your guys are still at the respawn or outside, and you couldn't have possibly timed it that way, right? So, I don't know. I don't think you necessarily it's not as much about game balance. I don't think that's the actual best lever to pull at for that.
No.
Yeah, where he says
Mhm.
in lower level games we need maybe a damage buff or something. No, that's not the way you fix this. The way you fix this is encourage communication, especially over voice, where people then feel more. Well, I guess force is a bad word for it, but it essentially is forced to play characters that are useful because of the human component
Yeah. I mean,
and waved spawns, obviously.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about wave spawns just as far as if I die, I have 5 seconds until I respawn. But if in that time somebody else dies, then they're just pushed back into the next wave rather than being a second after I am. And they'll be generally with me. But if they die a second or two past that wave, they have to wait completely over again. So you're basically extending death timers.
Not necessarily. You could get a really short time if you get like two teammates that die at 5 seconds and then someone dies at one. Maybe you could sneak them in. It depends on how they build the wave timer on it.
There's a lot of ways to do this, right? There's the way that, for instance, everyone has a base 10-second respawn timer, and
Yeah.
then it ticks down, and then whenever someone else dies, they take the average. And of course, yeah, then the people get set back like a second. That's a way. Or you could have hard spawn timers that are bound to the in-game clock. So every 20 seconds there's a respawn time, and that would obviously also add strategy
Yeah.
components where you say, okay, don't kill him now, kill him now. Okay, now he's dead for 19 seconds.
Here's another
Strike.
counterpoint to the whole like, oh, I might have to wait longer for a spawn. You're probably gonna have to wait longer anyways before you can even engage. You're gonna run up and get before the engage point and wait for a teammate, ideally.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just gonna run in and die. So there's like basically a respawn time addition there, anyways. You're just walking and then sitting and staring and looking around with your camera with the other one.
Yeah, I mean, I see the application of it. I just don't know if it's necessary as far as where the game is right now is like, there's no point in just sitting around and looking, but you could be gathering information as well. I don't know if it's necessary because it feels like the wave spawn is just gonna force people away from the run in and die. So you're basically like cutting them off at the leg and being like, "Hold on, kid, don't just run in, wait for your team." Like just that's just handicapping just because you think people are going to be bad players.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I guess you could look at it that way, but you can also look at it just as like a base game mechanic that encourages
Yeah.
a certain way of playing. I mean, there's different game mechanics that you can say are like that. That I'm trying to think of an example. So like Mercy, she can't do anything on her own, and she has to be with a teammate to do something. Basically,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I would say just her natural game mechanic encourages that play. It doesn't. It's not so much like, hey kiddo, you can't take on the world with Mercy, so why don't you go with ta- don't go alone.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, by the way, before I forget, uh, the Mercy change, Jeff apparently I haven't seen this quoted, but somebody told me that he came out and said that that's supposed to be reverted, the flying to dead
Yeah.
bodies.
Yeah.
Very cool.
That has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but I thought I'd bring it up.
Yeah.
But just before we get too off topic into the actual statistics that Jeff said that he provided here. So at new or low skill levels, attackers win roughly 38 to 40% of the time. Medium, roughly 40% of the time. Medium to high skill is 45 to 50% of the time. And at very high skill, attackers win from 50 to 60% of the time. So from medium to very high skill, it's basically the numbers that you want. It's the newer players who don't understand how to attack that are losing this much. And it's not to attack this original poster, but it's saying that either he's partying with low members or he's
Nah, dude. Like that is a fucking beatdown if I've ever seen one. Like that's the ultimate goal. Because okay, you kind of have to read between the lines, but what he's saying is he's winning 25%. Okay, let's look at the statistics. That's lower than low skilled players.
that's
Like
lower than like some guy who just loaded up the game.
like maybe yeah, exactly. Like
There isn't
maybe
even
that's
20, like there isn't even 30%. He said 38 to 40% of the people are winning.
I mean, obviously his perception is off
Yeah,
in
he's
that.
not
Or
exactly 25%, but
I mean, if he has two healthy hands and is not actively sabotaging, I hope it's higher than 25%. But the beatdown that Jeff Kaplan delivers here, dude, it's maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it's fucking perfect, dude.
yeah.
Like 25%, he pulls that out, and then he also takes the map choice he uses. I assume that's probably one of the maps that uh, not only because of community perception, but it's very good to make his point.
Mhm.
And then it's so nice how he veils that into a analytic post when there's obviously, for me at least, in my heart, this beatdown of this dude just getting fucking beat into the ground for being like so cocky in his post too. Like the tone in his post is so annoying, and then
Yeah.
being beat down like that's
Yeah, he
I
had
mean,
some knowledge bombs dropped on his village of ignorance, I guess is the way to say it.
yeah.
it's
Or
just
he's been
it's
outed
just
like an awful player on top of that.
Yeah.
Like stack that up, and I don't know. It's fucking amazing.
and the thing that I mean, like maybe he was actually trying to be helpful and trying to say like this is a problem that I'm seeing. Please help me figure this out. Like, is this a real problem? But the things that he added and the tone to his posts in saying this game is gonna die very quickly if people get fed up with getting owned when they have to attack. And I don't want to like, I'm not trying to like shit on this guy, like
Look,
whatever.
I'm trying to shit on this guy, dude.
look. Hold on, guys. We gotta settle down. I mean, we were all like 13 at one time and had like very terrible ideas about what video games were about. I mean, I was 13 once. This guy is 13, right?
I mean, he could be. But it's just like
Or
when you come out and you're like, guys, this is how it is. This is what the problem is. And then the dev of the game is like, dude, no, you're wrong. Sorry. And then just like, oh, okay. It's the things that you have to think about before you post on
yeah,
like a forum for the game. Like you can't just go around throwing around complaints about how OP a character is and how, broken the game is and stuff like that. And it's like, do your research, don't act like an asshole, or you're just gonna get shit on and made fun of. Like
Here's
if you
a
come if you come out and you're just like, throwing your e-peen everywhere and thinking you're the hot shit, prepare to have like your legs swept out from under you.
Here's a good tip, guys. If like you just came from a match where something made you upset, and then that upsetness makes you want to make a post about it, 99% chance you're gonna have like a stupid point because it's
Yeah.
just all emotional based, and you're just gonna be angry, and that's gonna be fueling your argument. Is like my perception is right, and like my feelings are right, and I want my feelings to be like conveyed to the developer, and it's going to be wrong. It's going to be completely wrong. So if you just came from, I guarantee this guy just came from a match where he was defending and he lost, and he's all squirrely right now, and he's like, I don't like I don't like attacking. Guarantee that's what happened. But don't do that, guys. Don't do that.
All right. So moving away from this post a bit so that we don't make a whole podcast talking about this guy.
I could.
So Yiska, you had brought up a point before the show about how some people are talking about how there shouldn't be any tournaments in the beta right now. Do you want to elaborate and give more information on that?
So basically, apparently there's a classroom where like people like Warmy and these people who post shit like this sit down and they're like, okay, we're very fucking mad about not having beta access, or if we do that, we get owned. And basically they come up with terrible suggestions. So there has been this trend, and it has been upvoted a lot on the subreddit. I've seen comments with plus 15, plus 25, that basically they want every tournament to shut down basically at the moment. And there have been people calling for the guys who organize these tournaments to be banned from the beta because they haven't understood what a beta is for. I'm going to ask the veteran gamers in this podcast, what are betas for?
For testing out and balancing games. It's that simple.
What are we testing in the competitive community? Like in the competitive scene right now?
We're testing how team comps are made, certain characters, how they fare in esports scene where it's super organized and it's super competitive. That's what they want this game to be. They want it to be an esports. We're not balancing around pub matches.
Is it then fair that people who invest a lot of time and effort into this endeavor get rewarded by it by name recognition?
Yeah.
Case closed.
If
done, guys. Let's go home.
You're putting in extra time, hoping that you're gonna, profit off of hours and hours of work and team, like, not even talking about the team players. Like, people don't understand how hard it is to, like, make an organization, like, make a consistent, like, Twitch, like, broadcasted tournament, getting casters, getting all the teams together, getting prizes, getting sponsors. I don't know if they have sponsors yet. I'm just throwing that in there. But just all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, and all you do is you turn on your Twitch page and go, oh, there's someone playing Overwatch. Oh, they probably just recorded the game and that's it. No, man, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. And if you think those people aren't busting their ass to try to make a competitive scene in a game that's only been out for a month and a half, that's very broken. And I know it's not like glitchy, like DayZ broken, but the people who play the game, they notice there's a lot of things like tick rate, a lot of heroes who don't do what they should be doing. And to form a tournament that is stable around that, like around a beta game, isn't easy. And I don't get why people don't commend these people for thank you for giving us what we need, a competitive scene.
Let me give you an example. They're the Gozo Gamers casters. They're called Hexagrams and ZP. And they've been casting more than 8 hours since the beta has come up every weekend, sometimes on Friday. Sometimes they are casting 2 tournaments a day. How fucking dare you that you tell them they should have their beta access revoked and that their effort is not worth anything? How fucking dare you, dude?
They're not even playing. They're slaving over spectator modes and cameras.
I don't understand what it's taking away from the game. What is this taking away from the game? I don't get that, and I haven't heard anybody really say that. They only argue from the point of view is I don't have my pro league status. That's all that I hear is the first person, I'm not in the pro scene, basically.
Mm-hmm. It's just the salt, and I thought I saw the salt going away for a bit when beta came back out of the winter, and a lot of people got in. We got in. We're obviously, I know someone's gonna say you guys are in beta, so you don't get it. We weren't in beta. Me and Volcha, at least. Fuck you, Yiska. We weren't in beta for the longest time. We
Yeah.
got it, but we're rational human beings who understand that, you know, if we get in, it'll be super fun. If we don't, we're still going to analyze the game. And even us, we put in a bit of work. We're not casting 8 hours a day, but we put in a little bit of work each week because we like the game and we want to create a community to talk about it, a rational community, not a salt-filled community. But my point is that the people who are saying, you know, things like, "Oh, I should just get in beta just because." Why? I didn't even expect to get in beta. I thought, oh, just because we have a podcast, we should get in beta. No. Whenever we get into beta, we should get into beta, man. Like, it sucks. It really sucks to watch and want to play. But this draws back to, you know, the same thing that Vulture said earlier. If you're going to say something that's based on emotions and anger and, oh, I can't believe they did that. They didn't give me my beta access. Just chill out. Think about it. Go, like, you know, I don't know, go outside for a second, get some fresh air, and come back inside.
Be
Like,
like fucking Zenyatta, and and just totally like zen out there for a minute.
Play with your balls like the Zenyatta does.
I was trying to avoid that. But also, so the idea of these people, I feel what they're trying to get at is these people are getting famous. They're on the internet, guys. Just because you know about them doesn't mean, you know, the whole world knows about them. But these people who are making these like esports organizations and like the casting and stuff like that, they are gonna lay the groundwork and they're gonna be known. Like, when, you know, a year goes by, or even at BlizzCon, I will hands down bet some of these guys are going to be invited to BlizzCon. And that sucks for people who are like, I want to do that. Well, then start casting, man. Once you get into the beta, start casting, look up, you know, some games, do some pickup games, make some posts on Reddit, lay down the groundwork. And in a year or two, if you stick with it, hey, maybe you'll get some following. But yeah, it sucks that these people are in right now. But guess what? They didn't just pop up out of nowhere. The Gosu caster guys have probably casted other games. They're probably experienced in this.
Yeah, they're experienced, and it's totally discrediting their talent for that too.
Mhm.
Otherwise, nobody would watch.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
If you're so deserving of the beta access and being a celebrity, surely your talent will help you rise above them half a year after launch, and there's nothing to whine about right now. Or alternatively, you could do it like Vulture and Trips did, and participate in this community, create content without even being in beta, dude. What's the problem with that? I don't know. Like, the salt is unreal, dude. I'm counter-salting right now. I'm like...
The salt is getting you salty.
Yeah.
Something I hear repeated over and over is if I'm going to be in beta access, or whoever's in beta access is going to have a head start on the game for pro, as far as like pro and skill development goes. I don't understand that conversation either, because I mean, through esports history, there's always been upsets. You know, some guy who picked up the game 6 months ago, all of a sudden it wins 3 tournaments in a row, like world tournaments. That happens a lot. That tells me that there's something that the game isn't based on like how much time you put in. For example, I saw Rafa streaming. You don't know, Rafa is a Quake player, an amazing Quake player. And his account level was level 14. Level 14, and he was up against level 60 guys who put in so much time in the game to be up to like 60, level 60. And he was just crapping on him, and his team was crapping on him. Level 14, level 15 crapping on the level 60. That should show you that it's not about how much time you put in. It's about like natural skill, how intense you are at developing those skills.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's all about.
Also, yeah. Let's for the sake of intellectual honesty, obviously, let's say there is a little bit of an advantage, and that's
Yes.
about as
Well-
the only valid excuses for being salty. I'm willing to concede, right? Because there will be a little bit of an advantage. People will have a deeper understanding of the scene, but eventually, and especially because this game is not going to be the biggest esport in its absolute first year, it's going to be the peak of an esport has never been the year after release, but always once the scene builds up. There's enough time for you to catch up, right?
Mhm.
It's like, and in general, the idea you talked about is pretty much the same. It's not like in all sports, it's just that people like the absolute best fall off, and that's why there's new absolute best. No, there's people who have more talent and put more into it and are smarter about their practice that they are able to elevate their level over the past best players. Right? It's not like I'm like okay, Roger Federer is playing tennis. He's going to survive with the amount of money he has. He's going to survive till he's 80. I guess once he died, I'm going to start practicing tennis because like I can never catch up to him in the time he invested into it. It's bullshit. I should have like I'm going to blame my parents for not having
Conceiving
me
you
before,
earlier.
yeah, before Roger Federer was there. Like look at that argument, dude. Nah, I'm done.
I mean, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Like, if someone was so good at, like basketball or any sport. I know people hate the comparison of games to sports, but it's a game of skill, it's strategy, everything like that. But if someone was so good at, basketball, you're just gonna be like, well, I guess I could never be a basketball player. Why? Because there's people that are just better than you? No, when you get your hands and you're able to play in that environment. So when Overwatch comes out and you're able to play it, you play, get your hands wet, but then you don't just meticulously slam your head at the, into the keyboard. You go into theory crafting mode and you think about things and you strategize and you make posts on Reddit and you try to get a team together and yada, yada, yada. There's a lot more than just that. But I do, like you guys said, understand the whole people who are in the game, of course they're going to understand the game more than people who are not in the game. It's just that's obvious.
Mm.
That doesn't, you know, there's no platform to stand on there.
I guess this is a personal question to you guys. How many hours in Overwatch did you spend before you felt comfortable to the point where you understood all the mechanics and you felt comfortable with the controls?
I mean, for the like overall, I obviously don't feel comfortable with every single character, but as far as just like the game itself and understanding the maps, because that's another thing is like knowing where health packs are, knowing where escape
Yep.
routes are. Um, maybe 10 to 15 hours in, because the games are only like 5 to 15 minutes long. So in an
And
hour, you're getting 20 to no, that's wrong. You're getting what 12 to 4 games depending on the game length.
and how long did it take before you got like into like the actual strategy so you actually knew like specific counters, specific compositions that were strong against other compositions?
Um,
To the point where you feel like you understood the game. You can look at a lineup, know like what they're gonna go for, and know what's probably gonna work against it.
I mean that's just another not even the first thing. So not even like the first 10 hours you put into it. That'd be like maybe another 3 to 5. Because once you understand where everyone's going to be, you've played against the characters enough time, it's like you're compounding on that skill already. Because in the first 10 hours, you're not just working on map skill and direction and shooting and stuff, you're also observing. So it's like compounded on top of each other. I say after like 15 hours in the game, you're going to know how to play the game if you're a good if you understand and if you have that mindset, if you played other games, if you played, shooters, if you played MOBAs, and that's another big thing is that even still, I'll see people who are level like 75 and they're on Zarya. They get their ult and they just throw it. And I'm just like, holy shit, why? That's like if you join, like a MOBA game, and I'm use Dota for an example because it's the same example as Zarya. If you're on Enigma, you hit level 6 and you just jump in mid lane and black hole the enemy team. No one's around you. Like, what are you doing? Now you got to wait 2 minutes for that ultimate to come back up. There's more than just, putting so many hours into the game. If you have 20 hours in the game and you're level 75, just because you're level 75 doesn't make you good. It's that mindset. You have to understand the game.
I think a pro team would have enough time between release to like get to BlizzCon. I mean, if it's released in the spring, you're gonna have enough time to like get your ass to BlizzCon if you.
There will be there'll be teams that are like, oh, we formed a week after release. We never got into beta.
If that's your intention right now, right, to become a team or a player that will be at BlizzCon, I have no idea how bad you have to be at networking to not get beta access. If you have proven the level of skill or talent in other games, it's different for the youngest generation. I very much doubt they actually have this, set goal in mind. Okay, for them, okay, yeah. But otherwise, if your deepest wish right now is to be at BlizzCon in some form, it should probably not be impossible for you if you have displayed the talent before to get a beta access.
But not even
to
that.
Talk to certain people.
Not even like the whole beta access thing, because that's what people think is like the key. If you get beta access, you have the key to success. That's not how it works. Like, if you go to the subreddit and you read the sidebar, there is pages upon pages of map layouts and all the numbers for health, armor, damage, bullet speed, all that stuff, cooldowns. If you want to be a pro player and you are not in beta right now, you should read all of those, memorize all of those. You need to know how much damage you're doing from your hook, shotgun, melee blast. Like, you need to know who you can kill, where you need to be. If you get shot and you need to be somewhere as Genji, where you can jump off and, dash over to get a health pack or something like that. I mean, there's a lot more to do than just get into the game and slam your face into the keyboard and hope you're, pro.
Yeah. The thing is, and that's where I have to maybe a little bit disagree with what you guys said earlier. I don't think I actually understand the game after, I don't know how many hours I've played now, to a very good level. I think there's still, like, for me to, what I would consider a basic skill set, I haven't reached that. I don't know any of the callouts on the maps. That should be basic. Like, in every other game, that's considered basic knowledge.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, the community hasn't figured them out yet. There's actually a very good post on One Hit Club about this. Like, Spo really put some effort into it, colored the different parts of the maps, named them very simply. Very good introduction to that, right? But a basic idea, especially if, let's say, if I wanted to understand a competitive tournament, 15 hours would be more than enough to understand what's going on.
Yeah, right? That's basically what I was meaning. I'm not saying I'm a pro player now, but when I go into the game, I do feel comfortable. I feel like I know what I'm doing. But if I was thrown into, to verse like Melty or something, I would get shit on. Like, I'm not good, but I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
And you would know why you lost.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the thing also. And I think this is also not a game where grinding is very much rewarded at all. Like, for instance, in CS, you have a lot of people grinding out deathmatch every day, 2 hours, 3 hours with different guns. On high skill champions, that might be the case. If you're the match fragger, like the striker for your team, yeah, you're probably required to keep your individual skill set up. For others, I think it's mostly coordination with your team, and then also knowledge spikes.
I mean, even like you as a support player, or you just tend to do that because nobody else does. But for me, as I've kind of geared towards the tanks, I love Reinhardt and I love Roadhog. And I really can't play Zarya because she has to be played with a team. it just gets boring because you will hold a point or you'll go to push, blah, your team won't follow you. It takes a lot more coordination. I'll just be like, all right, whatever. I'm just gonna go soldier then. Like, I'm just gonna have some fun because the lack of coordination doesn't make it fun for certain roles to be played.
Exactly. It's much more frustrating for supports, for instance, also for tanks to a lesser degree. Like a striker can always have fun in
Yeah.
duels, right? And but then again, that's also probably one of the reasons why people are in lower skill tiers is that they are not willing to, fill the roles that are currently not played.
Yeah,
Right.
the amount of times that people just go, "Oh, there's one healer. Okay, nobody else has to support," and then it's just like you just go 6 DPS or well 5 DPS. It's
Yeah.
like, I mean, yeah, whatever. And then the people are like, "I'm just trying to have fun." Okay, I'm not calling you out on that, man. You're allowed to have fun, but if you want to have fun, prepared to lose. Like, if you just want to have fun, don't care about win or losing. Just care about having fun in the match. But then those people at the end of the game are like, "Oh my god, why won't anybody else tank?" It's like,
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
you've been on DPS for the last
exactly.
10 minutes. Like, you could have switched.
Had this exact scenario twice today, where like a guy wanted to play McCree and he was upset that there was no Reinhardt or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Then you can't have your cake and eat it too,
Exactly.
right?
I got a story too. After the Torbjorn change, I wanted to check out Torbjorn. I had not used him in the beta, and I was like, I want to use Torbjorn, and it was King of the Hill map. And my team hated me for picking Torbjorn on King of the Hill. They're like, stop playing him. We're gonna lose. We only have 5 players now, and I'm like, dude, I just want to see this one character, what he does on this type of map. I just want to see what's going on. And
Yeah, I think for that it's also very important that at some point, and probably quickly, is that these two mindsets are divided into two separate queues.
yes,
Right? Where you have
exactly.
rank queue where people try hard, and then quick match where people just try stupid shit. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, personally, like when I'm playing with a team, that's exactly what I'm establishing before every game, right? I'm going to say, okay, are we messing around or are we playing seriously? So nobody's upset after, playing the game that I played Torbjorn that game or
That's
played
a
Bastion, wanted to try something out, something.
that's a good tip that I might steal from you is just ask your team, are we playing for serious or are we just goofing off, guys? And
Yeah, but
establish that baseline. That's a good
then you're
idea.
always going to get the people who are, that's all they do. That's all they want to do is win, 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 which isn't wrong, but it is a beta. You're allowed to test stuff out. You're not going to keep your whole account's going to be wiped. I mean, people still don't get that. There's people who, they go in and they're like complaining about how they don't, they don't have the skins that they want, blah, blah. And it doesn't matter anyways, because my account's going to be wiped once beta or once launch comes out. And it's like, well, duh, you're in a beta. Like, I don't get it. And so that might actually transition, unless you guys have something else to say, into the next thing, which is, I don't know why we have to keep going over this, but I see it come up and I feel like we have to acknowledge it, is the perception of what a beta is. And we talked a little bit about this with the esports thing, but people are still saying that this should be a full open beta, that early access is standard now in gaming, and that if Blizzard is not adapting to that, I heard somebody say their whole entire marketing team should be fired and like just let go from the company just because of Overwatch, and that they really screwed up this beta and the game is going to sink just because blah blah. And then people are comparing it to Heroes of the Storm because Heroes of the Storm isn't that popular. But the thing that they don't understand is that the only competition, I'm sorry for people who like TF2, but the only competition for Overwatch is TF2, and it's not much competition. It's an old game. There's very dedicated people to it, but Overwatch is kind of like taking the formula and putting more into it. And like, it is kind of the same game, but it has more to it.
I,
And less to it in mechanical wise, I know, but
I just want to point out really quick that Overwatch is going to have some pretty steep competition in the next couple of years. There's going to be some games that come out that are close to what Overwatch is. I don't think they're going to overtake Overwatch, but there's a
Yeah, but
there's a danger there, but that danger doesn't come from having a closed beta at all. That's not what the danger comes from.
the competition though, as far as Overwatch is considered, are you talking about like Battleborn and Paladins and that stuff?
There's also some arena games that are going to be coming out of early access
The
and
only
going into
the only
early access.
the only thing with that though is that those games are around the same development time. When Heroes of the Storm came out, Dota and League of Legends are well established, well
Mhm.
versed, huge esports. You're not gonna like, you're basically like, taking a little pickaxe to their heel at most. But anyways, the point of it is that this is a beta. We are testing. We are looking for bugs. We're trying to make it a good game. And even yeah, there's people who go in and they just play, and then they just shut it off and go to bed. They don't talk about it. They don't make posts about it. Blah blah. They don't stream. They don't make videos. But those are probably going to be people who are just like friends and family of Blizzard, who are just like, hey man, we're making this game. We need some, we need to populate the servers a bit. You want to play? Yeah, sure. But then there's gonna be people like us who are talking and criticizing and trying to mold the game. And then there's people who are way better at that us than this. And there's people who make, like whole forum posts and blog posts about all the bugs that they found. I think there was actually a huge list that some guy posted the other day. Um, but I don't get the perception. I don't get it that people are like, you know, early access is standard. We all should be able to just run around and do whatever we want in the game. It's
I
like,
I feel like an old fart. I feel like a cranky old guy right now, like that's falling out of touch with like what is in touch. Because I don't get it. Because I've been through a lot of old betas, like StarCraft 2. That's not really that old. StarCraft 2 had the same exact model. They had closed beta, and then they gave some keys out to some like good players and to some like content creators. That was their model.
yeah.
I mean, that's what betas are to me. To me, when I see like, was it the Division come out with like what, like two missions and like a quarter of a map, and they call that a beta? Like, what the fuck are you testing there? There isn't even a game there. That's a beta. I see that and I shake my head. That's not a beta. That's not accomplishing what a beta does. A beta is supposed to like contribute to the integrity of the game. It's not supposed to be some marketing thing. And I
And
feel
I think
like,
they actually recently had an open weekend for the division.
yeah,
I think we actually might have to, like, as an industry, to not, because it's actually a semantic problem, right? It's not really a problem of what is a beta, like this is a wrong type of beta and this is a good type of beta. Basically, what Overwatch is doing is the old style of beta. If you're comparing it to how DayZ functioned, for instance, which was basically crowdfunding, right?
Hmm.
Where you had open alpha and then it went into beta and it's still in beta, right? Over a couple of years, that usually is within development time. And
Yeah.
I get that there's certain issues that they couldn't foresee, that they probably didn't plan for this to be in beta as long as it is. Be that as it may, like, because we're using the same term for both things, expectations get broken basically, or people get upset because of
Yeah.
this, right? And it's not comparable. Blizzard doesn't need crowdfunding. That's
No.
not the type of developer Blizzard is. It's also not going to be the experience that you get from other betas, right? You're getting a fully polished game in a state like when the first beta came out, it was a million times the Polish DayZ will ever get.
Hmm.
Right? That's the type of game company we're talking about. Okay, so yes, it's there are different models, and I get why the younger generation has been trained to think that they are entitled to beta access when they're not.
Yeah.
But that is basically a problem on a semantic level where we just need to really clarify this is not what's happening here. And the selection process of getting people into beta the way it is right now, with the random invites, as well as, inviting well-known people, people who have proven that they are talented and that they are driven. Like, tell me a person that exploits the engine out of your game more than a top player. There is not a person that will exploit the ever-loving shit and really test the structure of your game as much as the person that wants to win the most, who will do everything in his power to win.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the reason why so many competitive players, after their career, go into Q&A, do consulting for game companies, because they have this drive to really, find the exploits in your game, and then they communicate them to you, either explicitly or implicitly by showing you their streams, and then you fix it. Right? That's like the even if top teams like Reunited, IDDQD, Envious aren't directly making these huge lists, the community manager or the community management team, the beta team, can still filter a shitload of information out of this, right? What's fucked up is if you're hiding something, right, and that also happens.
Yeah.
Right?
It's pretty rare, though. I mean, you do want most people who are driven like to do that are also kind of they want a little bit of recognition for finding that crazy shit. Like look what I found. Like
Or
that's a bit of a drive there instead of like exploiting it in a pickup game. Like to like kill like 5 guys.
no, they want to save it and then use it to win a tournament, and then they'll be
Well,
like, "Oh yeah, we have this."
even then, it's in a tournament setting, and like it's gonna be exposed. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's just I don't know, because if like you're saying the polish and everything like that, I don't know if you guys have played many early access games, but I played H1Z1, and I played some of like the stupid just like just crap that's on Steam, but those games suck. Like even Paladins has its own problems, but they're just bad. Like I remember H1Z1 when it first launched. I bought it because the Daisy hype, and I like zombies, and I thought, oh, cool, open world game where you can run around, collect loot, and shoot zombies. Cool. There was a bug in the game where if you shot an arrow into the air and it landed just in the air, you could drive a truck or like a car into it, and your car would just explode. So what people were doing was they were firing arrows into the middle of the road to make tank traps, basically, for random vehicles. And it was ridiculous. Those games, when they come out, are unplayable, really. And it's just kind of them being like, okay, here's this game. Go ahead and play, but we're like really working on this still, but you guys paid for it, so I guess we'll give it to you. And then just people sit there and complain anyways. I mean, people are complaining with this polished beta. People are complaining with now this might be a hot topic, but people are complaining about Street Fighter. The Street Fighter 5 that just launched. Yes, it is very bare bones, but it's also very, very polished. Like people are complaining that it shouldn't have been, $60 and that's whatever. But people are complaining that it should have been labeled as beta. I don't know, because it's very polished.
we have 3 terms I think we should define. There's beta, there's early access, and then there's demo. I think this game, Overwatch, is a demo. H1Z1 is early access. I'm sorry. Overwatch is a beta. H1Z1 is early access, and I guess you could say Battlefront, the new Battlefront, was a demo.
Yeah, it's the same thing as Street Fighter. They're released with a little bit of content. The game is basically done. They don't need to bug fix, but they're building on top of it. That was a demo. You get to play, you get to jump in, play a few matches. There's not much content, but there's also not many bugs.
So I guess we could talk about what we, as a player, as a consumer, like what are the signs between the three. I mean, early access, it says what it is, typically. Early access.
It's also very, very fucking broken.
It's like, not finished, it's broken. Okay, let's talk about what's a demo. Typically, what happens with a demo these days is it's a game that's been partitioned off and released for a weekend 2 weeks ends before release. So Battlefront did this. The Division did this. Street Fighter did this. Portion of the game that's released for like a weekend for a very limited release. That's a demo. Just a portion for a very limited amount of time. And then a beta is just an ongoing thing that is worked on for just to make the game better.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
Not
notice
developed.
the fact that there's no way to spend money right now in Overwatch on microtransactions.
Yeah, and
right? That's not
look at
that's the sign of a game that's in beta, not in early access. It's not trying to gather money, right?
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure people would be buying it, and then because what they would do is basically when they roll back everything, you just get credit onto your Blizzard account. They've done that before, right?
I did that with Hearthstone.
Exactly, right? So they're not doing that, right? They're not getting any monetary gain out of this beta. They're gathering feedback, and the fact that the invite policy has been as it was indicates to me that they are seeking exactly this type of feedback that they are getting. And from all the feedback we have gotten about our feedback, they're actually quite satisfied or happy with what they're getting, right?
Yeah.
And also to commend them again on their interaction, I think it's absolutely awesome that we have so many blue posts and direct communication right now, and these developer diaries or these developer videos and everything, where they communicate their idea of what they want Overwatch to be like, or where they still are trying to figure out, and where they need input, and where they need playtesting, and that's actually one thing. I think I've never been this informed in an actual beta. What we consider a beta of what's going to happen.
If I can say anything as far as like developer communication, anyone who has played Dota should think about the communication that we have with Ice Frog, which is none. Because whenever Ice Frog came out, and this was before my time, but I have done my research. Before, when Ice Frog came out and was trying to talk to the public and blah, blah, and changes got made to the game, which is, it's a MOBA, so changes are made hundreds of times. Most of the people just shit on him for it. And so he was like, okay, I have no point interacting with you people, so I'll give you the patch notes and we'll never talk again. And he doesn't
Can't blame him for that.
He doesn't talk to the community. And that's not how I want Jeff to, be with our community.
Yeah.
There was an interesting article a little while ago about why there's no Half-Life 3, and it came to the conclusion that perhaps Valve looked at the lessons from, what was it, Bioshock? Not Bioshock, the space one, space RPG.
Mass Effect?
Mass Effect 3, the backlash from that, and they said, well, maybe it's not worth it. Maybe the risk is not worth it, and they just haven't developed it.
You can't make Half-Life 3. Like,
how are you going to live up to that? I guess it's a little off topic, but it shows like how...
I think the one... Yeah, go on, sorry.
It just shows how like community, like salt and like stuff can seriously screw up a good thing. This is why we can't have good things, is because we got like assholes.
The thing is, like, an artist, which they essentially are, because this is basically art, if we think about it, or at least entertainment, probably shouldn't care too much about that, right? The problem is that they are all stock-traded companies, and it makes it much harder, and, PR, and, all this bullshit. At the end of the day, they shouldn't care too much about that. And in general, for Half-Life 3 to be successful, I think it needs to have some just world-shattering new feature. For instance, one thing that I always thought was, what if Half-Life 3 was the most amazing VR game that was the first VR game that really was fucking awesome?
Yeah.
Right? That could live up to the hype, but other than that, yeah.
But to kind of push us back into, Overwatch, guys.
Hello.
I don't know. I really hope that a lot of these people will, think about what they do and think about what they say, because I know some people are like, "Oh, I've already given up on the game," but they follow and they, keep up with the game, and yeah, they don't want to play it cuz they're not in beta, but they're the people who just keep on making salt posts on the subreddit. And it's like, well, if you don't care, why are you posting? Are you just posting to get your anger out? Are you just posting because you want to feel like you want to just get in an argument with somebody?
Yeah. I
Hmm.
mean, these are the same people who said, I'm going to quit WoW when this feature goes live. And then
Mhm.
they get a second account for themselves, so they get multi-box or something. Like,
I
until.
know people who are like, WoW went to shit, Diablo shit, StarCraft shit, and then they still, they still play Blizzard games. They're probably gonna still play Legion when it comes out. They're gonna try Overwatch. They still play Hearthstone, and it's like, I don't know what you're doing. You're just kind of talking out your ass.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can't. There's no way to get rid of these people. You just can't. But if you're one of those people who, you are salty, just think about why. Why are you salty? Are you just, you want to be part of the bandwagon? You want to be part of the meme or whatever? The people who are posting like only watch. I mean, that type of stuff. Like Jeff has said in interviews that he hates that. He hates that that's become a meme because they're just trying to create a game that the community will love, and the community is just throwing it back in their face sometimes. Now,
It's
that's
Yeah.
obviously not everybody, and it's not like, it's not like he's going to have his feelings hurt too much. He understands how to interact and, keep that out of his personal life, but like you're not just talking to random ass computers. Like these devs are real people. They read Reddit every day probably. They're trying to work with the community. It sucks that you're not in, yeah, but you know, just be patient. Do some
let's,
other stuff.
let's just keep the bigger picture in mind, okay,
Exactly.
guys. The bigger picture is we're gonna get a really awesome game, probably. Let's just assume that, and what's happening now is part of the process of making it even more awesome. So it's like a baby being born. There's like some very messy parts that you probably don't want to see, but the end result is you get like a great little baby. Let's look at it kind of like that. Maybe that helps you.
Yeah. But also, we're not gonna sit here and baby everyone, because, well, if you're playing these games and you're on this subreddit, you're probably a teenager, almost an adult. There's probably gonna be a lot of adults playing this game too, but most of the adults are probably more level-headed. So if you are coming into this community and you are a toxic person, you're the people yelling and raging in beta, you're the people making salt posts and blah blah, you're not going to survive. It's funny now when there's a lot of people who are going to jump on the bandwagon with you, but once the game's live, you're just going to be that sad, sorry asshole who's just complaining for no reason. So you kind of want to sit back and decide who you want to be. You want to be with the community or against the community, because I mean, the community is going to decide for themselves how they want to uh, rid the salt eventually once everyone gets in.
Yeah, salt gets really old.
It's
It gets
funny
old.
for a while, but it does get old.
Yeah.
Um, that got really sad and dark for a while. So, um, do we have anything that we should uh talk about still? Any big other topics you guys want to talk about in this salt-filled cast this week?
I guess we could talk about like the competitive over the weekend, maybe.
I know I didn't watch any of the competitive, so if you guys want to go at it.
I guess for those that don't know, in NA, the big thing over the weekend was a composition of two Winstons, two Reapers, and then a. I'm sorry, my
Lucio.
brain's getting a little tired right now.
Lucio?
Lucio, yeah, and then Zenyatta or something,
Or a
and
second Lucio, yeah.
yeah.
Most of the time.
So that was the comp. It's kind of like, I guess I call it a 2-2-2 comp, and it seems pretty strong. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Iska?
In general, I think or it's let's see. Envious is very good at finding compositions that work in the vast majority of cases, also while being very effective and very reliable. That, okay, people would say, well, they played Farah in the first week. That's not a reliable champion. Yeah, it is if you have a fucking awesome Farah that hits every air shot, right? That was reliable for them. Tailspin was just that good. And he had the skill set already. So there's that is why they created it around it. And they basically built these comps that feel like Swiss Army knives that can have an answer to every situation. And also, even if you have a counter, most of the time the counter is hard for those people to execute who aren't prepared for them and very used to the characters that could potentially counter them. So that these compositions work for a while. And even if you mirror them, these players also have a very high skill set, so you probably aren't going to meet them at their own game, right? So I guess there are some teams who can go head-to-head in terms of skill, especially IDDQD is a team I would name that in the future, unless Envious just keeps innovating, they could potentially get a win out of from them. But in general, I wouldn't overrate that comp, because even Envious says that's just what's working right now. We haven't really figured out the meta. Like, that's not the final thing. That's not the truth to what's currently the best in the game. It's just one thing that absolutely works, and like it literally doesn't matter if you put a real player on Winston or an actual monkey. He's just going to hit just as many shots, and I guess the only skill components are then the coordinating the domes correctly, and then obviously a lot of games then are won through your Reapers, who will have to win these direct duels or just outperform them. And Tailspin, I think Cool Mad is actually the better Reaper of the two, but they have been pretty much outdueling the other Reapers for most part. In the scrims I've watched for IDDQD, Pluppy actually won a shitload of direct duels against Tailspin and Coolmat pretty reliably. So that's going to be an interesting storyline to follow in the future.
Do you think we're going to see that composition this weekend, or do you think they figured out a way that's going to counter it if they see that composition? Not counter, but deal with it, I guess.
The thing is, I have no precedent to go on how Envious will react in that situation, because in the first beta wave, their comp was unbeaten till the end, right? They lost one tournament to Diva Spam, which was invented before them, and then they took the Diva Spam and perfected it. So with the new Winston comp, maybe they have a new idea what will be the next go-to comp they have, and then people will need to catch up to them again. It felt like in the scrims I've watched that some teams were getting close to possibly countering them, even though they were still losing on time, with Junkrat, who was able to get the domes out quite quickly. And IDDQD was actually running 2 Junkrats at a time. So that was quite interesting to see. I wonder if it's going to be like, oh yeah, you beat our Winston comp. Guess we have this comp that's just as reliable, and now you need to adjust again, right? Mm-hmm. And I wonder if that keeps happening until like it gets more dynamic, because currently I find it quite interesting that especially Envious mindset seems to be let's find combinations that work on every single map in every single situation, then adapt maybe a little bit with a pick instead, like 2 Lucius or 1 Zenyatta, and to these situations, instead of saying, okay, for this part of the map I'm going to choose this combination because Pharah is strong here, something, right?
The approach reminds me a lot kind of a StarCraft 2 pro way of approaching the difference between maps. They have a build that they like to do that they're strong at, and depending on the map, they stick with the build and they just kind of like, oh well, I'll put this tech 20 seconds earlier or even 5 seconds earlier, and that's the adjustment that they make to the map, and they just stick to the comp that works, and the adjustment is minor, but just enough that the backbone of the tactic is solid.
Yeah. And I think to a degree, if you think about what Blizzard has communicated to us, IDDQT is actually playing the game the way it's meant to be played. They are constantly switching. Their team leader, I guess you could say, Internet Hulk, is proficient on basically almost every character there is in the lineup. He's playing healers at times. He's playing tanks. He's playing Genji. Like there's basically no limit to the heroes he is willing to play. Obviously, he's going to give up Genji to Pluppy now, who joined the roster after Bromas left. But I feel like they are much more dynamic in their shot calling and also picking strategies. They're much more on the fly thinking people, and then they discuss what they could do specific combinations in these various situations. And I think in the long run, this might pay off more than having this one set strategy where because once the mastery gets to this new level, people will eventually, I think, really take map layout into consideration, right? Where like closed off positions are obviously not very good for Farah because she's then way too close and gets countered by a lot more characters. Like potentially even the Reaper could then get to her on some parts of King's Row, for instance. And in general, I think this is going to be where the meta is eventually going. It's just that maybe we are also at a point with balance where these cookie cutter compositions are way too useful in way too many situations and way too reliable. But I don't know. Maybe this keeps going on. Maybe they can find the next best composition, and then people need to catch up again, and then they find the next one, and maybe we are going to play catch up till BlizzCon. I don't know. Right? It's just not very likely this is going to happen. And I think like this, that's also why this next tournament weekend will be very interesting, just to see if people have adapted to them. And if they did, what's Envious going to do? And that's basically going to be my proof of a top team. If they are able to pull up another rabbit out of their head, then Jesus Christ, dude, then they can do it all, and they can keep doing it. Right? I don't know, and I think it's they are a very smart team in many ways. Like their interconnective play is very high.
It's interesting because before, I mean, Winston was barely looked at. I mean, it was Reinhardt that was the tank, and now Winston, like people thought he was weak because he did pretty low output, but it seems like they put the homework in to really figure out the super strength of the character. That's great. I hope we see that again this weekend. Something like that. Maybe like there's some like double May defense. Maybe they use the walls to like cut a team in half. Because the compositions are kind of deathbally. The engagements for the most part are army on army. It's not so much like spread out, so maybe like there's like some sort of crazy mace play that like cuts an army in half and you can use it to like mop up. I don't know. I'm hoping to see something surprising this weekend. I'm hoping not to see the 2-2-2 comp versus 2-2-2 comp. I'm hoping that's not what we see.
Yeah, it's very boring to watch, right?
But just to cut in here, is the 2-2-2, are you considering just like the exact 2 instant, 2 Reaper, 2 random supports, or are you saying the 2 DPS, 2 tank, 2 support is boring?
Well, I'm probably mixing terms, but it's 2 Reaper, 2 Winston, and the 2 supports.
Has that become like the standard though? Is the 2 DPS, 2 tanks, 2 healers?
Often, yeah.
It
It doesn't have
on how
to be
they mix it up.
Yeah, there's certain situations where sometimes people go 3 tanks or 1 tank and 3 DPS. It's not often that they actually switch off to healers. Um, I guess what is also quite interesting in that regard is that ESL actually tried to tried out the rule to limit the amount of heroes you can pick at a time, right? The reason that we didn't see the to Winston, to Reaper, to Lucio or Zenyatta comp is because of that, because you weren't allowed to pick those last tournament.
Hmm.
And who was in the finals? Was it IDDQD against Reunited again? I forget. It might have been, yeah. And yeah, Reunited is kind of shaky because they keep like switching out new players. Like they constantly keep switching like this Mad Fragger role, which I don't know. I wish they had their Mad Fragger, like they had like this established Tailspin character, and then they could just fill the other roles around them, which Envious also did when they uh, picked up Stoop. But I don't know. Reunited, also, referring to my bold prediction, I'm starting to get a little bit, you know, a little bit afraid of of possibly eating a ghost pepper, because if they can't fix their Mad Fragger position, they are probably not going to be very successful at BlizzCon, or if they even make it there. Right?
Be a very clickbaity video.
Yeah. All for the views, man.
Or maybe we could make you do it and just see how long you can last on the podcast before you throw up.
Yeah. Maybe we could do that. Sure.
Yeah, Trips and I will be making points, and then you'll just periodically be screaming,
Drooling.
like ah.
Nah, I don't think I would throw up. Don't even think the eating part is really the problem. It's more like what happens, down the line.
Yeah. Okay. We're kind of devolving a bit here, so I think we can close up shop. So I will just go top to bottom as far as my Skype goes. Vulture, you got anything exciting going on this week? Or
Yeah, I want to develop a series of videos about like the science of Overwatch, like little nitpicky details, and like really exploring them, like exactly how does Zarya's shield work? Like, can it block a ultimate from a D.Va ultimate? Can it do that? Like, what's the charge does it give? And how long? Stuff that's probably gonna be well covered in the wiki or whatever. But I want to demonstrate in game and show really in like a nice way how it flows. The problem is I'm not getting any. I don't have any of my other gamer friends in the game because it's a closed beta. I'm having trouble finding people to work on this stuff with. So if you want to help me develop some like sciencey videos, yeah, give me a shout out through the Reddit or wherever through here. Even I read the comments on this video. So yeah, that'll be what I'll be working on this week.
Yiska, how you doing on anything?
The thing is, I'm currently finishing up stuff like outside of the game, and that will be the case till I guess next Thursday. So I'm not going to be able to do anything else till then, and then maybe I'm going to pick up, maybe write something again, maybe I do a video again if I find something fun to talk about. But currently, nothing really planned. Like I have some articles on, on ice right now, but yeah, well, let's see how this works out next week. Sneeze?
Almost. It went away, kind of. All right. As far as myself on the YouTubes, I have put up just a random compilation of playing with a 6-stack with a couple of people, just a couple of good games, and I'm right now working on like I don't want to say like it's not supposed to be like a meme funny, but I'm working on like a Roadhog clip montage of hooking and just good Roadhog plays. I've been playing a lot of Roadhog, so I'm just cutting them together. I haven't been streaming that much. Just I don't know. I don't know if it's the game or if I need to fix my settings a bit, but I don't. I get pissed when it goes under 60 FPS while I'm streaming. While I'm not streaming, I'm up to like 80 and 90, but for whatever reason, I need to adjust my settings. But other than that, I think that's all I'm doing as far as this week goes.
Are you playing on ultra or on high?
I'm playing on high.
Okay. Yeah, that's
I mean,
also. I might actually have a better PC now then. Fuck yeah, dude.
yeah, I need to upgrade soon. It's all right. I'll be up there. Um, other than that, though, hopefully we can get some more information. Maybe able to do a couple more balance changes for next week. If you guys have anything to say, be sure to put it in the comments on either Reddit or on the actual video themselves. We do read. There have been a couple of people commenting and we're interacting. It's nice to see people come and talking about stuff, even if it's just like nice beard or, random stuff. But there have been a couple of people who make decent entries into our discussion. This discussion was kind of salt filled, so if you're hating on some of the salt filled posts on the subreddit, you can hate with us.
Bring it on.
Other than that, guys, we are done for tonight. We will see you next week, and we hope that maybe there'll be another beta wave. Maybe you guys will get in this week. Maybe not. For those of you in beta, have fun, and we'll see you guys next week. Have a good night.